Always second place. I was 7 the first time I realized I was invisible in my own family. It was the elementary school talent show, and I'd practiced my piano piece for weeks. My fingers hit every note perfectly that night, but my parents' eyes were glued to my sister Emily in the audience, whispering about how pretty she looked in her new dress. I remember walking off stage and hearing my mom say, "That's nice, honey. Did you see Emily's teacher stopped by to tell us how gifted she is in science?" That was 20 years ago. Things haven't changed much since then. This morning's text from my mother is what finally broke me. "Your father and I transferred $4,000 from your account for Emily's wellness retreat. Her therapist says the mountain air will help her anxiety. We're going with her for support. The mortgage payment is due next week, don't forget." I stared at my phone, my coffee going cold. They didn't even ask. Just took my money, again, and expected me to handle their bills while they vacationed with my 27-year-old sister who still hasn't finished college or held a job longer than 6 months. I should tell you about Emily. My sister is beautiful, the kind of effortless beauty that makes strangers stop her on the street. She has our mother's high cheekbones and our father's striking blue eyes, while I got my grandmother's plain features and mousy brown hair. Emily is 3 years younger than me, but she's always seemed to exist in another dimension entirely, one where the rules of responsibility and consequences don't apply. She's always been delicate, as my mother puts it. Sensitive. Special. Needs extra attention and care. When we were kids, her tantrums were legendary, but everyone just called them Emily's emotional responses. My parents structured our entire lives around not triggering my sister's meltdowns. I remember my 10th birthday party being cancelled because Emily was having a difficult day. My sweet 16 became a family dinner at home instead of the promised trip to New York because Emily failed a math test and was too upset to be left alone. My high school graduation gift was watching my parents put a down payment on a car for Emily to encourage her to finish high school strong next year. Meanwhile, I was working part-time jobs since I was 16. I put myself through college with scholarships and night shifts at the campus library. I graduated summa cum laude, landed a decent job at a marketing firm, and have been helping my parents with their underwater mortgage for the past 4 years. Not that anyone noticed. "Rebecca is the strong one," they'd say. "Rebecca can handle herself." As if being competent was a punishment. As if needing nothing meant deserving nothing. 3 months ago, Emily quit another job, this time at a boutique where the manager didn't understand her creative vision for the window displays. She moved back in with our parents, who immediately called me. "The therapy bills are piling up," Mom said. "Emily needs this new specialist. He's not covered by insurance." I transferred $2,000 the next day. Then another $1,500 last month for specialized treatment. When I asked what kind of treatment costs that much, Mom got defensive. "You don't understand what it's like to struggle with anxiety like your sister does." Actually, I do understand anxiety. I've been in therapy myself for 2 years, but my parents don't know that. I pay for it myself, squeeze the sessions in during lunch breaks, and never mention it because in our family, only Emily is allowed to have problems. My therapist, Dr. Levine, has been trying to help me establish boundaries with my family. "Your parents are treating you like an ATM," she said during our last session. "And they're infantilizing your sister. Neither dynamic is healthy." I nodded but didn't commit to changing anything. What would happen to Emily if I stopped funding her endless treatments? What would happen to my parents if I stopped helping with their mortgage? "You're not responsible for everyone else's well-being," Dr. Levine reminded me. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for people is let them face the consequences of their own choices. I'd been mulling over her words all week. Then yesterday happened. Yesterday was my 27th birthday. I didn't expect much, maybe a call, a text. My phone buzzed once with a promotional email from a pizza place offering a free breadstick with purchase. By midnight, my actual family remained silent. This morning, I checked Instagram to see my sister's post, a photo of her, mom, and dad on a plane. Mountain retreat time. Hashtag blessed, hashtag self-care, hashtag family first. Family first. Except for me. Then came the text about the $4,000 they took from my account. Money I'd been saving for a down payment on my own place. Money they had access to because I'd added my parents to my account years ago when my dad was sick and needed help managing bills. He had recovered from his heart attack within months, but somehow the access remained. And over time, small withdrawals became medium withdrawals, became today's $4,000 without so much as a heads up. Something snapped inside me. 27 years of being reliable, responsible Rebecca, always giving, never receiving, crashed down like a house of cards. I texted back, "Have a wonderful trip." Then I called my bank. "I need to freeze my account immediately and remove all other authorized users," I told the representative. "And I need to open a new account only I can access." "Of course, Ms. Winters. We can do that right away." The woman's voice held no judgment. I wondered how many calls like mine she received each day, how many other people were finally drawing lines in the sand with family members who took and took and took. 20 minutes later, my phone exploded with notifications. "Mom, there must be a problem with your card. We can't check into the resort." "Dad, call us ASAP. Card declined." "Emily, OMG Becca, what did you do? Mom is literally crying right now." I turned my phone off and went to work. For the first time in my adult life, I felt something close to power. My coworker Jade noticed something was different. "You're smiling," she said when I walked into our shared office. "Birthday yesterday that good?" No one remembered my birthday, I told her, arranging files on my desk. But I just gave myself the best gift ever. Which is freedom. At lunch, I met with my bank manager and closed the joint account completely. I opened a new one, with passwords my family would never guess. Then I called my landlord and gave notice on my apartment. I'd been quietly interviewing for jobs in Denver for months. Yesterday, I'd received an offer with a 30% salary increase. I accepted it this morning. When I finally turned my phone back on at 5 p.m., I had 37 missed calls and 24 texts, each more frantic than the last. "Mom, Rebecca, this isn't funny. We're stranded." "Dad, call me immediately, young lady." "Emily, I can't believe you'd do this to me. My anxiety is through the roof." The final voicemail was from my father, "Rebecca Jean Winters, I don't know what game you're playing, but your mother and sister are stranded at this resort with no way to pay. Is this really how you want to behave? After all we've done for you? All they've done for me." I nearly laughed out loud in the middle of my office. I texted back a single message, "I've paid off your mortgage for the last time. The account is closed. Do not contact me again." Then I blocked their numbers. That night, I ordered takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant and ate it on my balcony, watching the sunset over Chicago's skyline. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. My phone dinged with an email, my new boss in Denver confirming my start date. I had 3 weeks to pack up my life and move halfway across the country. The thought was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. I spent that weekend sorting through my possessions, deciding what to keep and what to discard. In the back of my closet, I found a shoebox filled with childhood mementos, report cards with straight A's that my parents had barely glanced at, ribbons from piano competitions they'd missed, a dried corsage from a prom I'd attended with a boy they never bothered to meet. I was about to toss it all in the garbage when my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Rebecca? It's Aunt Claire. My mother's sister. We weren't close, she lived in Seattle and visited only occasionally, but she'd always been kind to me." "How did you get this number?" I asked. "Your friend Jade. I called your work when I couldn't reach you directly." She paused. Your mother called me hysterical yesterday. Said you'd abandoned them at some luxury resort in Colorado. I sighed. Of course, that's how she's spinning it. I've known my sister for 55 years, Rebecca. I know exactly who Sandra Winters is. Aunt Claire's voice was dry. What I want to know is, are you okay? The question caught me off guard. When was the last time anyone in my family had asked me that? I'm getting there, I said finally. Good. Now tell me what really happened. I told her everything, the years of financial support, the forgotten birthdays, the $4,000 withdrawal without permission. She listened without interrupting. I'm not surprised, she said when I finished. Your mother was always the princess in our family too. Some people never outgrow that role, they just find new subjects to rule. I just couldn't do it anymore. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. But I understand why you did. She sighed. Where are you going now? Denver. New job. New start. Good for you. Send me your address when you're settled. I'd like to send you a housewarming gift. She paused. And Rebecca? Don't look back. Some patterns can't be broken unless you walk away completely. After we hung up, I sat on my living room floor surrounded by the artifacts of my overlooked life and made a decision. I would take nothing from my old life that didn't bring me joy. 3 hours later, my apartment was half empty, and I felt lighter than I had in years. The next morning, a Monday, I woke to pounding on my apartment door. I peered through the peephole to see my father, his face flushed with anger. I know you're in there, Rebecca, he shouted. Open this door right now. I leaned against the wall, heart racing. How had he found me? They weren't supposed to be back from Colorado for days. The resort made us leave, he yelled through the door. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? Your mother had to call her brother for money to get us home. Uncle Mark. My mother's older brother who I'd always been close to. I felt a twinge of guilt at causing him trouble, but it was quickly replaced by resolution. I would pay him back. Rebecca, open this door or I'll call the superintendent. My lease agreement had strict rules about disturbances. With my hands shaking slightly, I opened the door, leaving the chain latched. My father looked older than I remembered, his face lined with stress and anger. Behind him stood my mother, her makeup perfect despite the crisis. Where's Emily? I asked. At home, completely distraught, my mother snapped. No thanks to you. What were you thinking? My father demanded. Taking away our access without warning? It's my money, I said quietly. I worked for it. I earned it. And you took $4,000 without asking. For your sister's treatment. And a luxury resort stay for all of you. On my birthday, which you forgot. My voice was steady. I'm done being your backup plan. After everything we've done for you, my mother began. What exactly have you done for me? I interrupted. Name one sacrifice you've made for me in the past decade. One time you put my needs before Emily's. They stared at me, stunned into silence. That's what I thought. I started to close the door. I'm moving. Don't try to contact me again. My father jammed his foot in the door. You can't just walk away from your family. Watch me. I slammed the door hard enough that he had to pull his foot back, then threw the deadbolt. They continued pounding and yelling for another 10 minutes before giving up. That night, I called Uncle Mark. I heard what happened, he said before I could explain. Don't worry about the money. I've been watching your parents take advantage of you for years. I'll pay you back, I insisted. You'll do no such thing. Consider it my long overdue birthday present to you. He paused. Rebecca, there's something you should know about Emily. What about her? The therapist your parents claim is treating her? Dr. Feldman? What about him? I did some digging. There is no Dr. Feldman licensed in Illinois. Your sister isn't seeing anyone professionally, at least not the person your parents told you about. I felt suddenly cold. What are you saying? I'm saying your parents have been scamming you. For how long, I don't know. But that money isn't going to any therapist. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Years of payments, thousands of dollars, all lies? Why would they do that? Your father has been in financial trouble for years. Bad investments, online gambling. Uncle Mark sounded tired. I've tried to help where I can, but I'm not an endless resource like they've made you. And Emily? Is she even sick? That I don't know. She might be. Or she might be just as manipulated as you've been. After hanging up, I spent a sleepless night recalculating every dollar I'd given my family over the years. The total made me physically ill. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm in Denver now, in a small but beautiful apartment with a view of the mountains. My new job starts Monday. I've changed my email, my phone number, and all my social media accounts. I think about Emily sometimes, wonder how long it took her to realize the gravity of what happened. Did she have to cut her retreat short? Did my parents have to dip into their retirement to cover the costs? Or did they find someone else to leech off of? Late at night, guilt creeps in. They're still my family. But then I remember 2 decades of being overlooked, taken advantage of, treated as nothing more than a convenient ATM. Yesterday, I received a letter forwarded from my old address. I recognized my mother's handwriting instantly. For a moment, I considered throwing it away unopened. But curiosity won out. Inside was a check for $4,000 and a note that simply read, "We're sorry. Please come home." Too little, too late. I tore up the check and dropped it into the trash. Then I headed out to meet my new hiking group. For the first time in my life, I'm putting myself first. My new Denver routine became my salvation. Morning runs along the Cherry Creek Trail. Coffee from the local shop where the barista already knew my order. A job where my ideas weren't just heard but valued. Weekends spent exploring the mountains or reading in parks. I was healing. Slowly, methodically rebuilding a life centered around my own needs and wants, something that felt revolutionary after decades of putting everyone else first. But the story doesn't end there. That would be too simple, too clean. 1 month after my move, I got a new phone number and decided to share it with exactly 3 people, my friend Jade, Aunt Claire, and Uncle Mark. I was sitting in a coffee shop working on a marketing pitch when my phone rang with Uncle Mark's number. "Rebecca," he said, his voice tight with tension. "Emily is in the hospital. She tried to hurt herself." My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. "Is she okay?" "Physically, yes. They pumped her stomach in time. But mentally..." He trailed off. There's more to the story than any of us knew. 2 days later, I was on a plane back to Chicago, the city I'd fled just weeks before. Uncle Mark picked me up from O'Hare. "Thank you for coming," he said as we navigated the familiar highways. I wouldn't have asked if I didn't think it was important. "Is she still in the hospital?" "Psychiatric hold. 72 hours. He glanced at me. "Your parents don't know I called you." Emily asked me not to tell them. The psychiatric unit was quiet when we arrived, the fluorescent lights harsh against sterile walls. Emily sat in a common room wearing standard-issue hospital clothes, her beauty dimmed but still evident. She looked up as I approached, her eyes widening. "Becca? You came?" I sat across from her. "Uncle Mark called me." She looked thinner, paler, less like the golden child and more like a ghost. "How did you find me?" I asked Uncle Mark later, after he'd given us privacy. "I'm not as helpless as everyone thinks," Emily answered instead. "I asked him to find you. I flew to Denver 2 weeks ago, but you weren't at the address I had. You came to Denver? Why? To tell you the truth. All of it. Her hands trembled slightly. But I lost my nerve when I couldn't find you. Came back here and... She gestured to our surroundings. Why would you do this, Em? I whispered. Mom and Dad are getting divorced, she said without preamble. Dad moved out last week. He says it's not because of what happened with you, but we all know it is. I felt a stab of something, not quite guilt, not quite satisfaction. That's not my problem. They've been falling apart for years, Emily continued, ignoring my coldness. Using me and my issues as a distraction. Do you know why they really took me on that retreat? I crossed my arms. To pamper their favorite child? Dad was having an affair. Mom found out the day before. They thought getting away would help them work things out. They didn't even tell me until we were stranded at the resort with no money. I stared at her. Why should I believe any of this? Emily pulled out a folder the hospital had allowed her to keep. Inside were printouts of text messages, photos, evidence of our father's double life spanning years. His girlfriend's name is Diane, Emily said flatly. She lives in Tampa. Has a son about my age. My mind reeled. How long have you known? About 6 months. I found receipts for jewelry I never saw Mom wear. Plane tickets to Florida when Dad claimed to be at business conferences. She met my eyes. I confronted him. He swore he'd end it, but he didn't. No. And then I discovered something worse. She pulled out bank statements, my bank statements. They've been taking your money for years, Becca. Not just the recent withdrawals. I scanned the papers, seeing years of systematic theft, small amounts that added up to tens of thousands of dollars. The therapy you were paying for? Most of it was fake, Emily continued. I do have issues, real ones, but that specialist? Dad was pocketing at least half the money. For what? His other family. Emily's voice broke. I have a half-brother, Becca. He's 8 years old. The world tilted on its axis. 8 years. My father had been living a double life for at least that long. Why are you telling me this now? Because I owe you an apology 20 years overdue. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I knew what they were doing to you. I knew they were using your money, taking advantage. I let it happen because it was easier than standing up to them. You could have gotten a job, I said flatly. Been an adult. I have severe bipolar II disorder, Becca. Diagnosed 3 years ago. The jobs, the meltdowns, it wasn't just me being spoiled. But I've been in proper treatment for the past month. Real treatment, not that quack they were taking me to. The one I was paying for. The one they were pocketing half the money from, Emily corrected. Dad was using it to fund his other life. My head spun. So the therapist was seeing me once a month, not weekly like they told you. The rest of the money? Ask Dad's girlfriend in Tampa. I felt sick. Why tell me this now? Emily pulled an envelope from her folder. Because you deserve to know the truth. And because I cashed out my trust fund. She handed me the envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $57,000. Grandma left it to me when I turned 30. I'm 3 years early, but the trustee is her brother, Uncle Mark. When I told him everything, he made an exception. I stared at the check. I don't want your money. It's not mine. It's yours. Every penny Mom and Dad took, plus interest. I calculated it all. She handed me a notebook filled with meticulous accounting. I leafed through pages of transactions, dates, amounts and years of financial abuse documented in my sister's careful handwriting. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Emily said quietly. I don't deserve it. I'm just trying to make things right. What happened, Em? Why the hospital? Her eyes dropped to her hands. I confronted Dad about everything. He denied it all, called me delusional. Said my mental problems were making me paranoid. She took a shaky breath. Then I showed him the proof. He said I was dead to him. That if I told Mom about the money or the affair, he'd make sure I ended up committed permanently. So you tried to hurt yourself instead of fighting. I didn't see another way out. Her voice was barely audible. I'm not strong like you, Becca. I never was. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, maybe for the first time. Beyond the pretty face that had always been held up as superior to mine, I saw something familiar: damage. Different from mine, but damage nonetheless. Where will you go when they release you? I asked. Back to Mom's, I guess. Try to find a job. A therapist I can actually afford. What about Dad? He's moved out. In with a friend, he says. We all know it's her. I made a decision then that would change both our lives. I have a guest room in Denver. It's yours if you want it. Until you get on your feet. Emily looked up, hope and disbelief warring on her face. After everything, you'd do that for me? Not for you, I corrected. For us. The sisters we should have been allowed to be. She was released 3 days later. Our parents were nowhere to be seen, Mom too distraught over the divorce to come, Dad refusing to acknowledge Emily's dramatic cry for attention. We flew back to Denver together. The flight was quiet, both of us processing the seismic shifts in our family landscape. I have a job interview next week, Emily told me as we unpacked in my apartment. Customer service for a software company. Nothing glamorous, but it's a start. You can stay as long as you need, I said. But I have house rules. Therapy twice a week. Medication as prescribed. Job hunting every day. And we split expenses once you're working. She nodded solemnly. I want to do better, Becca. Be better. I know. Me too. That was 6 months ago. Emily got the job, found a therapist she connects with, and is doing well on her medication. She's saving for her own place now, talking about going back to school for graphic design. My parents' divorce was finalized last month. Mom sold the house I'd been helping pay for. Dad moved to Tampa permanently. Neither of them has my new address. Sometimes healing looks like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like starting over with the only other person who truly understands the dysfunction you escaped. This morning, I got a promotion at work. The first person I told was Emily, who came home with cupcakes to celebrate. The second was my therapist, who smiled and said, "You're putting yourself first. I'm proud of you. I am no longer invisible. I am no longer second place. I am first in my own life, finally. And sometimes, unexpectedly, that includes making room for people who are trying to heal alongside you." The end. If you liked the story, subscribe to our channel and share your impressions in the comments. We try to post new stories every day.